welcome back to Stream of Thoughts. Well, things may be less frequent now because, well, more of a if I feel like it situation now, since I barely got the routine straight down. But, well, general mental health things, really. Which is kind of why I wanted to talk about this time around. Because it was, well, related. So, let's get started, shall we? So, one of the things that, well, I've talked about since the conception of the channel is kind of this notion of mental health. And so it's really interesting to me as to, well, what happens. Usually when big players talk about it, they talk about this as, it starts to drag on, it's hard for them to keep going on, it's strenuous, stressful. There's a lot of things that, don't really go well for them. Which, of course, is generally what they report about. Typically, it's always negative, and that's normal. I mean, it's hard to remark on the good that is normal in one's life. But, yeah, that was kind of the general mentality I had going at it at the time. That, I didn't want this to be a thing because, well, to put it, well, I mean, it wasn't, well, from what I saw, it wasn't really good from the stance of mental health. And so, yeah, I went about it like it was a side project, and it's still a side project. I did what I could. I learned some new things, learned how to edit, whatnot. You've heard the whole story before, don't need to go through it again. But it provides something interesting for me. And that's kind of where I'm headed towards. Where maybe it's because I'm not focused on this, maybe because it's not a career. That maybe, well, things have gone so differently. I mean, first off, I guess it started with kind of the process of the creative portfolio. For now, because there wasn't really things that. Well, because there wasn't really anything for me to be creative in anymore. This was the place to do it. This is the place where I could be like, sure, I could do that. And put it up there. And, have a good time in making it and posting it. No one needed to see it, but, there's some joy in putting in some work and, yeah, putting in some work and making a finished product. Usually, many people have ambitions and thoughts, things they want to do, but they can never really get to starting it, or they never get to, yeah, or they stop it halfway, and as a result, well, there's always this almost unhappiness with not getting to finish what they want. Regret is often one of the things in life that, well, that people hate having. I'd I'd probably say the most in life. So the fact that I get to do these projects to completion, the fact that I could still keep doing that, despite the fact that I'm in a place where I technically shouldn't. Well, there's not really a good place to do it anymore. It's good for me. It shows, well, yeah, it's good for me. And I get to realize the things that I've imagined. There's no regret on my end there. So in a way, it's kind of made me happy. I mean, I'll admit, I'm honest here. There is a tinge of regret of not being to be able to share it with others well, to show it to others, I guess, would be the way to do it. But perhaps that'll come, perhaps not. But I guess all that matters is that I put in my effort there and that I have a finished product. Going down the line of video making process, it also made me content with doing something new. Doing the channel, I mean, before making the channel, things were relatively repetitious. There wasn't really anything new done. No real physical progress was made, shall I say. And then when I decided I wanted to do this, then an interesting challenge got brought up to me. How do I make videos? How do I stream? And so it was an interesting challenge for me to take on. And so, yeah. The beginning is there. And the current point at where I'm at is also there. So, well, I would hope to see a growth there, or some form of learning there. But anyways, the point is that because of something like this, my mind got to engage in something new. In a way, it's also creativity. It's learning how to merge something new into, one's life. Learning how it works, learning how to work alongside it, things like that. And so, while editing myself isn't really my cup of tea. It's a new challenge to take on. It's something different to do that's separate from kind of the mundane of what I usually do nowadays. So, a bit of a release there. And it still hasn't gotten to the point where it's kind of routine. Well, I should mention. I mean, I know, it does feel like a contradiction when I say that, because most everything on the channel is routine. So how could I say I'm not doing things routinely? Or it doesn't feel tedious? Well, I mean, really. I guess it's because I only do work on the channel once a week, just to upload once or twice a week, to upload a stream VOD, to do a stream of thoughts. And then every month I just pop back in here every month I edit about a month's worth of Hollow Knight or whatever game I'm working on. And then just pop those in, schedule those, and then I won't have to I won't have to edit for another month. And, it's kind of those little changes that infuse life into the process of it. Sure, that sounds about right. And so having this change kind of makes me feel better, in a way. And it's, as I said, it's really odd. Once again, I'm not, every time I stop at the channel, not really expecting anything. I don't expect anyone to come by. And yet, I think, it was sometime, a few days ago I popped in and saw, first off, it was the Mega Man video that somehow just skyrocketed. And then, oddly enough, one random Hollow Knight vid just went up. Of course, not explode, but when the rest of everything is zero, double digits is pretty high. In fact, infinitesimally, Infinitesimally. Yes. Because that'd still be 0. Anyways. But to see something like that when expecting nothing. I mean, the channel isn't really something I care for. Well, it's been... I don't want to say it's been done taking care of. It's self-sustaining, so I watch over it every once in a while. So expecting nothing and seeing that, you know, gets me going. A number that's not 0. Especially when expecting nothing. But, well, I guess going on, it's odd. Well, I guess the midpoint of this being that, well, it's odd of how I view things once before, and an instance where I was wrong in terms of mental health and all that. And I mean, it makes sense in retrospect. I mean, as I said before, people will notice the negatives and won't really take note of positives generally, because positive is typically their normal. And so they wouldn't really note it if it's how it is. And it makes sense. So of course, my analysis is based on reported factors. But so far, just talking about the video making process, I mean, has shown the opposite effect on me. And is something that, you know, I wouldn't say I look forward to, but, you know, there's some satisfaction there, I guess would be the way of saying it. But moving on from that, probably one of the bigger things that's had impact on my mental health was definitely streaming. Wow, streaming. I think I've mentioned this before, but I love games. I love sharing games with people, I love talking games with people, I love not just experiencing games as a whole. And nowadays, it's not really something I can relish in as much. I guess the era of growing up kind of hit. It kind of hit hard for me. You know, suddenly it just happens that, you know, no one's around anymore. Well, not no one's around, but time happens. I'm sure you get what that means. But so in a way, I turned to streaming. Well, streaming games as a way to share it with people. To actually, you know, play something by myself and experience it with possible somebodies. And, well, I'm lucky to, at this point, have a regular. And really, that's about it, but, you know, it holds that same experience of sharing a game with another person. Sharing the victories, the losses. And, you know, it puts me back in that spot all over again. The kind of spot of happiness. And I don't stream, you know, I'm not a hardcore streamer. Streaming like the YouTube channel is a side project. You know, it's only an hour and a half a day for 2 days a week. But, you know, as a planning factor, a psychological factor, I didn't want burnout. for streaming burnout or to bite off more than I could chew. So an hour and a nice hour and a half or 2 days was a nice place to do it. And so perhaps because of these two factors, I enjoy myself. I'm excited to play every time. That waiting period is always, the anticipatory excitement that happens. Kind of like, well, I'm forgetting the psychological term. It's that notion of waiting for something is the most exciting part than the actual something happening. And that's generally the thing I've experienced. And it's been good for me. It's fun to play. It's fun to talk with someone. It's fun to wait and see what happens next. I've never really been into, blind playthroughs. Blind being, blind game playthroughs. Blind being the fact that you play a game with no prior experience. Or minimal prior experience. And so, these thoughts, these questions get to linger in your mind. And that's always been fun to play around with in the off time. So yeah. I guess I'm lucky to have that. Once again, like the channel, I don't expect anyone to come. And so it's always nice to, see that zero not be a zero. And I'm thankful for it. Yeah. Well, all in all, really, this channel's been... Oh, who would have thunk it? It turned out it's really good for my mental health. I wouldn't... I wouldn't call myself mentally unhealthy. Nothing that would cause, say... Not... Ooh. I'd have heard that sneeze. That was from another floor. Anyways, I wouldn't say there's mental illness in me to warrant having a disorder, per se, but, just a regular amount of poor mental health, I would say. Nothing extreme. Nothing extreme, nothing prolonged. My studies have served me correctly. Just regular illness, if you will. So it's nice to do something that, is good for you. However long that may be. Well, generally things will start going into routine again and the cycle will continue. Well, it's not a cycle, things will increase. But for now, it's been great. Especially, going from nothing. So I'm happy. Despite what everyone else will say about video content creation and whatnot. I don't know if you happen to hear this now and you really want something to do. Give it a shot. Nothing you could lose from it. And, a lot of things to gain. Although the portfolio thing really hasn't paid off. Anyways, that's a story for whoever knows when, well, whenever I report on it next. If I do. If I don't, it was a failure. Yeah, that'll do it for this stream of thoughts. Said pretty much everything I wanted to say. Ah. Oh, yeah. I guess that has been the stream. These have been my thoughts. My very happy thoughts. Thanks, Bob Ross. How are you doing? Doing good? Yeah. Well, can't hear him from here anyways. But yeah. Take care, everyone. I really don't know how to end these. These, this and this. These and this combined. These. Okay. That's it. Thanks for listening. Whenever this may be.